Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's CloudSuite Industrial version 10 demo. With that, I am pleased to introduce our presenter today. Dave Lindeman is a senior business solutions consultant here at DRI. Dave has over 25 years of experience working with ERP and supply chain management solutions and helping clients automate and transform their business operations. Dave, I think everyone's really excited to see 10 in action, so why don't you take it away?
Great, thank you, Emily, and thank you everybody for attending today's webinar. Certainly appreciate it. As Emily mentioned, my name is Dave Lindeman. I'm a senior business solution consultant with Decision Resources. And today we're going to go into kind of an overview of CloudSuite Industrial 10 and show you some of the key features, in particular, some of the Infor OS features that are inherent in the software. Not so much a deep functional dive today as it is more look and feel, looking at some of the user productivity tools. Some of these features that you'll see today, I know we have attendees, many attendees on the line that maybe even predate version 9. So some of the features we're going to show today will actually be some that were available in 9, but then others, a significant portion are CSI 10. So you'll see a little bit of kind of the evolution of new features from some of those earlier releases. Now we're going to hit a number of different areas today, and we'll take a look at some navigation and personalization features. So we'll kind of show you around the system, show you some of the new what we call web forms in the system, so you can see that. We'll talk a little bit about user productivity tools and some of the things we can do there, including some of the embedded document management and collaboration features within the CloudSuite offering. We'll talk about workflow, messaging, and some alerts. We'll also look at some Microsoft Office integration capabilities. We'll look at some Outlook integration. Then we'll take a look, we'll do a short tour of some analytics and reporting capabilities. As you know, Infor now, after the Burst acquisition, they have a very robust analytical capability within the system, and we'll show you some of that as well. And then finally, we'll kind of round it out with some of the mobility capabilities, showing you how using what we call responsive design, everything that I show you can also be viewed very easily and made very usable on mobile devices such as tablets and cell phones. So with that, let's get started. So we're going to kind of start on the left-hand side here, and the view that you're looking at right now is what we call a home page in CloudSuite. And what you're looking at on the top are some of my menu options that I'm going to take. So these are what we call widgets. These are menu widgets. And on the bottom of this screen, you're seeing some metrics, and you'll see the kind of the scrolling images in the middle bottom portion of the screen. And that's what we call an announcement widget. So if you had company announcements, you kind of wanted to broadcast, whether it's a company meeting coming up or potentially a holiday that may be coming up, or some information that you want to expose to the users, that could certainly be added as a announcement widget on a home page. On the right-hand side, you see an interactions widget. So this is where I might go out and start looking at my customer interactions. Now, working our way down, and this is just a home page I put together. We're going to talk about Burst later on, but here's a Burst dashboard that I've embedded into the actual home page itself. So you see some of the, you see some of the graphics in the dashboard, and we'll take a look at Burst in a little bit. And then finally at the bottom, you'll see our DRI website. So a widget on a dashboard can be anything from as simple as a menu like we see at the top, to external content that you might want to embed in one of these little panels. Now, as a user, I can have a number of home pages. I can have a single home page. Out of the box, you'll have home pages that are provided that are common to a role, maybe a purchasing manager home page and a inventory control home page. So there'll be some predefined home pages, but it's very simple for users to kind of make and rearrange their home pages the way they see fit for the functions in their organization. So here you can see I've got another sample. Here's Dave's homepage with some customer order follow-up information. I've got my inbox down here. Again, some metrics. So I've got some key performance metrics up there. Take a look at another one. Here, I've got some banner widgets up at the top. So that's just kind of a banner. But maybe I'm an executive and I want a kind of an executive overview of the pulse of the organization. So what do we do in shipments? What percentage on time are we running? What's my cash impact? So you can see I can have a number of metrics. And then again, there's our dashboard at the bottom. So we can kind of work our way through some of the key business metrics on that. But as a user, if I want to tailor this dashboard, so let's say I'm on this particular home page and I want to add an item lookup widget to this page. I can simply hit my edit button on the upper right-hand side, and I'm going to click Add Widget, and that's going to open up what we call our widget catalog. So this is all the pre-built widget content we've got. And you can develop your own widgets, but let's go ahead and look for that item lookup widget. So I'm just going to type the word item in the lookup in the top, and I'm going to hit enter. And we'll see, here's all my item related widgets that are out there. And I'm going to choose the item lookup widget, add that to the home page. We'll close out of here, and you'll see that that's added that down here at the bottom. Well, maybe I want that to appear more in my primary panel up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my item availability widget. I'm going to shrink that down just using my mouse. There we see the item lookup widget pops in there. I'm going to move it to the left. And now you see, I can kind of rearrange this the way I want. So once I have that the way I want it, I'm just going to click Save. And that's going to go out and refresh each of those widgets. And you can see now at this point, I've got the widgets that we had before, but now I've got my item lookup. So for example, if I wanted to, it has the word seat in it. I'm going to type the word seat. I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see that it went out and it found anything that had the word seat. And I can start drilling back into my inventory from here. So very simple for a user to kind of maintain those pages for their particular focus in the organization and not have to have IT intervention for something like that. So let's go a level deeper. Let's take a look at some of the new forms in CSI 10. I'm going to take you into a multi-view form. So in the past, an items form may have looked like this. Let me take you to I've got a bookmarks bar on the upper right-hand side. If I look at the old items form in previous releases, it would have looked something like this. And I can filter, and here's my collection of records on the left and my kind of my detail on the right. Here's my buttons that I can exit out to. Okay, but in the new CSI 10 form, you can see it's much more, it's laid out very clean. You've got bolder, bigger fields. And I'm going to go in and search for, I've got some plumbing products. We're going to go ahead and do a filter on my family code. We're going to bring up those plumbing products. Now, if I want to save any of these filters, you'll notice something new up here on the right-hand side, that little filter box. So if I hit that little magnifying glass up there, I'm going to look at days manufactured items in this case. So you can see now I've got a subset of those records. I could have chosen purchasing or purchased items. Now, if I hit that drop down on the filter, you'll see this is where you'd actually set those filters up. So basically you do all your filtering, you save that, and that becomes a saved filter for my user ID. So when I go in, I'm going to see my filters. I'm not going to see everybody else's. All right, so we've got some records. Now, if I want to look at the grid, okay, so our collection of records, I'm sure all of you being Sightline or CloudSuite users today are used to the concept of a collection of records in a grid, and then focusing on the record that you want to work with, and then working it in kind of in the form if you want, or opening up the grid and working in the grid itself. You've still got all those good features, but just a different way to kind of present and get to that information. Now, in the grid, as we've been able to do for some time, if I wanted to do a mass replace on a record, I'd simply choose the column I want. I'd go hit edit, and I'd say replace value in collection. Okay, so in this case, I'm replacing ABC code. Let's say I want to replace everything that was a C with a B. So I'm doing a mass replace and click on replace all. and now you're going to see anything that was C before as a B, and you can see there those changes are indicated. The 3 rows that were changed are indicated by the gold diamonds over here. If I decide I didn't want one of those, again, you can hit your refresh buttons as you have in the past. I could say I don't want to update that record. I'll hit my refresh button, and you'll see now only these 2 would be updated when I saved, or I could refresh all and say no, I don't want to do any of that. All right, so now we're back to our grid. If I wanted to import records, okay, so if I'm in my grid and I want to import records into the item master, I could simply go out, grab my records in Excel. So here's a number, maybe 10 or 12 records. I'm going to copy those. We're going to come back and I'm going to say paste rows of pens. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with this function. Now I'm going to paste it into the window, click OK, and you'll see that that's going to add those records, and they're going to be edited just if I'd entered them online. If they pass validation, I'd see blue stars. If they don't, I would see a red asterisk next to those lines that didn't pass the validation. Similarly, I could hit my export button, and I could export records to Excel through a single click. So you've got that Microsoft Office integration, as some of you have been used to, maybe in the past, and maybe some of you haven't, but very simple to import and export records back and forth. Now let's go back. I just refreshed, so we got rid of everything we just did there. And let's shrink our grid back down. Look at a couple other features in CSI 10. You'll notice up here on the right-hand side, we saw the filtering, but then you see this show me. So we've got our tabs here if you want those to display. They don't have to display. So I've got my details here. If I want to look at maybe lot information or serial information, you can see that here. I've got, my planning information. Here's my lead time information for this particular item. You can see that there. So you can see it's all nicely laid out. We're going to talk about how these are what we call flex forms. So we're going to talk a little bit later how, if I was on a different device, how this all shrinks down to fit into that particular device without actually making it so small you can't work with that. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But up here in the upper right-hand side, if I do a drop down, you see the show me. I can access the same information that's in my tabs up there, or as some of you may be used to in the past, my buttons now become drop downs here where, for example, if I wanted to go to, item warehouse information, I'll click on that and that's going to open my linked form. So there's my item warehouse information related to that item that I was focused on. So here's the drain cleaner. We see the item warehouse information for that. And again, if I were to choose again another record, just like some of you may be used to, choose the second record, the Mini Router Pro, go over to the linked form. By the way, you have a little indicator up there now to show you that that's linked. Here's the item warehouse information for that. So you can use the show me drop down to get to those linked forms, and you can add to these. You can also have buttons on the screen, just like I've done down here, if you favor the buttons. But a nice clean look on kind of the forms or the multi-view forms as you've used in the past. All right, again, here's a flash of the old style form. Here's the new CSI 10 form. Now, one thing I'll mention is these forms, the old style forms, are all still available as well. So if you want to continue to use those are available for use as well, and as well as the web forms. All right, so that's kind of an overview of what some of the navigation, the homepage, the forms. Now, in addition to everything I've already talked about here, you can also do theming in the system, and this started back in the 9 versions, but there's some enhanced theming in 10. And basically what that's going to give us the ability to do, you saw the screen I was just on, is kind of change the look and feel of a particular display. So here, I'm looking at a customer's form. I go up to view and hit user preferences. Watch this. I'm going to go and I'm going to say, I want to change my theme to maybe for Independence Day, we'll go red, white, and blue. Okay, so that's kind of a dramatic change. Or maybe I want a high contrast theme. Okay, so there's a different theme that we've got. And that can be saved again by your user login, so that as you come in, you're going to get kind of that theming you want. And you can change those colors and fonts and displays very easily, but just another way you can personalize those displays to your liking. All right. Let's jump back and talk a little. I want to hit one other item in the navigational area, and that's a feature called Global Search. Again, some of you may have used this in your past, but basically this is giving me a Google type search that allows me to go in and say, find everything, any hits you get with the word spring in it. In this case, I could choose any word I wanted, okay, and you can use different types of criteria. And this is going to search across all key tables in the system: items, customers, vendors. And when I hit the search button, we're going to see it's going to go out, and you see how quick that search was. You can see it found 15 hits in the item master. It found 3 hits in the customer master. So it's sorting by the number of hits per area. Now, if I hit the item drop down, we'll see that the reason it got a hit here was it had the word spring in the description, whereas if I went down to customers as an example, you'll see that this customer was on Spring Street, whereas these 2 customers were in Springfield. All right, and so that's giving me kind of that needle in a haystack type search capability. If I'm not certain exactly, what I'm looking for, where I'm looking, but I have a word or some criteria that I want to search by, that global search is a nice way to kind of get you to that information. All right, shift gears into the user productivity tools area. We're going to start by talking about the integrated document management as part of Infor OS. And I'm going to go into the document management system. You'll see I've got 107 documents stored out there. What you can do within document management is retain any type of document you can think of electronically. So I'm going to go up and I'm just going to do a search because it gives you this free search option. I'm going to say I want to find all document types of equal to, in this case, let's just say drawing. And do a search. All right, so now I've got, you see it's selected 15 documents. Or maybe I decided, no, I don't want drawings. I want my document type equal to maybe my info sheets. Okay, and these are all user-defined attributes that you determine. So I've got kind of the subset of information I'm looking for now. Now, once I've got the document pinned down that I'm looking for, I could pull that document up. I could expand it and look at it. But what you'll see here is I can maintain things like the attributes. Okay, so in this case, different maybe product types. The functional area in this case is sales. The history, the revision history of the document. So you can see you can do full check-in, check-out, and maintain various versions. And I can do things like revert back to a previous version or display a previous version. Okay. So it's allowing me to retain information. But in addition to that, what I can do is, let's go back and let's just do a reset here. Let's say I wanted to just do a general search. I know it has the word compression in it. And I'm going to do a search on that word. And we'll see that in this case, it came back and it found 4 or 5 different documents. Well, this first document it found was, it actually indexes the text in the document. It has the word compression in it, all right? And maybe the drawing that we have down here has is a category of a compression. This quote, again, because it had compression somewhere in probably the attributes or the name, actually, in this case, it was the name of the document, it found it there. So you can do kind of that free search because the system will actually index all the contents, whether it's a PDF or it could be a Word document. It's going to index the contents of those documents and allow you to easily get back to the related information. Okay. Right, now, how is this document management information used? Well, it's used in CSI in one, to allow you to easily access those documents, but also, let's go back to our item master. And if I was in any form in the system that had a relationship to any one of those documents, I can use what we call our context viewer up here on the right-hand side to see those documents. So in this case, I'm open up my context viewer, and you can see in this case, I've got the Super V tool in the upper right-hand side. Whereas if I focus on the mini router, the second one down, you'll see that the content changes. Now, again, that's context sensitive. Now, if I were in another form, okay, I'm just going to give you a quick example, from maybe an order entry or a customer order standpoint. Here I've got a sales order. Well, this happens to have the mini router on line 1. If I hit the context viewer, you're going to see that same information we saw in the item master, but you'll also, because now I'm looking at the order, I've got information that's related to the order that might not have been related specific to the item. So in this case, it's the pick list, or it might be, the packing slip, or something related to that particular order that I'm looking at. So that's all seamless integration back to the document management system and allowing you easy access to any electronic information related to records in the system. So it's pretty powerful functionality when you think about the fact that all your documentation and associated records to this, in this case, this product, are going to be easily accessed and they're right at your fingertips. All right, another component of Mingle is what we call user collaboration. And I'm going to take you to what we call our activity feed. And what you're going to see here is, think of this as kind of an internal social media type experience where I'm going to be able to communicate with other users in the organization and share information that might be related to records in the system. So this record here, or this message here, without having to pollute someone's email box, I'm using the Mingle collaboration to send Jeff Smith information related to this gear, right? Now, when I sent this, I was in the item master. Okay, so I'm sysadmin 3. I sent this to Jeff. I had an attachment of maybe a picture or a drawing that's related to this particular item. But what happened was it built this drill back link. You'll see this little purple link down here to the item I was looking at when I sent it. So I'm going to click on that. So Jeff gets this message. He clicks on that. It takes him right to that screen and that item I was on when I sent that. The way I sent that was this little share feature in the upper right-hand side. If I click on that, you'll see that it opens up a share window, and it embeds the link it needs to build the drill back. And then I just started typing at Jeff, and you'll see that I selected Jeff Smith. I sent that, and that's how that message originally got created. So I like to call this an electronic sticky note. Okay, instead of having to maybe screenshot this and print it and put it in his mailbox or put it on his desk, I'm just going up, I'm sharing this, and Jeff's getting live information. And when Jeff gets here, if he needs more information, he can start using the document management system or whatever he might need to get the information he needs, maybe for an approval or a review process. So again, all electronic, and it's allowing us to kind of meld our business data with our communications and not have to have all this paper flowing all over the organization. So again, a nice feature. And again, that was available, I think, back in the 9s, but it's been enhanced and upgraded with the advent of CSI 10. All right, messaging and workflow messaging and alerts. Take a look at this. Now, you'll notice this is another new feature of the widgets in CSI 10. And notice when I hit this workflow messaging and alerts, this is actually a folder. And so it's opening up kind of a sub breakdown of menu options within this widget. So you see how I did that. Now I can go back just by hitting this home button, but another nice feature in CSI 10. So I'm going to give you a quick example for those of you that aren't already using the event management or workflow system in CSI or in Sightline of how you might take advantage of the workflow capabilities. So I'm going to give you an example of simple workflow where we're going to add a customer. Actually, I'm going to take an existing customer in interest of time here, and we're going to duplicate that. So I've got a workflow out there that requires kind of a couple steps of approval. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into the Stevenson Enterprises. I'm going to go up and I'm going to say I want to duplicate. So let's say we want to add a Stevenson Enterprises distribution center. So we'll just give it I could let the system assign the number, but we'll give it a new customer number. And I'm going to say this is Stevenson's Enterprises Inc., but we're going to say this is Stevens Enterprises. We'll just say Eastern Distribution Center. All right, and we'll say that this is 1 Main Street, same city, PO box, etc. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit add. This is going to trigger my workflow. And my workflow in my case is kind of a 2-step workflow. It's going to say, okay, we need to have first a sales approval. All right, so I'm going to go to my inbox. I should see a message, and there it is. So new customers been added. We need some type of a response on this case. In this case, so I'm going to go ahead and hit respond. Okay, so this is the sales input. So here's an example where you might have kind of subforms where you're going to add pieces of information, as opposed to having everybody kind of go to the one customer master. They're going to add their components, and it's going to update the customer master based on their input. So in this case, I'm going to say I've added my territory, my price code, my customer type, and I'm going to hit approve. Okay, so I hit approve. And now I'm going to refresh my mailbox. Now, obviously, these wouldn't be going to the same person. This would be someone else's mailbox. So in this case, we need accounting approval. Okay, so I'm going to say, go ahead and respond to that. Okay, so here's our credit limits. So I could change the credit limit if I wanted, and that could spur another workflow if we wanted to. But otherwise, I'm just going to click OK. And now that customer's been approved. Now, had I shown you the customer kind of midstream in that process, they would have been in a suspense stage. In other words, they wouldn't have been approved or an actual customer for usage until both those approvals took place. So that's a quick example of how you might take advantage of electronic workflows in the system, and think of it as being able to trigger not just approvals, but it could be notifications or alerts, or it could change a field value or update a field value based on any data criteria you have. So as long as you have data associated with something that you want to trigger that on, then that's certainly something you can do. All right, and again, there's probably somewhere between 80 and 100 pre-built workflows that you get as part of the solution. So you can take advantage of those just by activating them. Now, the other thing I want to take a look at was the Microsoft Outlook integration. So for those of you, some of you may have used this in the past, and if not, this is going to give you the ability to start linking your, whether it be a customer, a vendor, information with your CloudSuite system. So here's an example where I had a customer, Cole Randall from Boschco, who wanted the status of one of their orders for this particular bicycle. Now you'll notice, because of the CloudSuite add-in, at the bottom of the screen, what we're seeing is order history for the customer. It recognizes who the customer is based on the email address, as well as any interactions I've had in the past. So here's the email right here that we just saw. Okay, here's previous emails, so I can see any conversations I've had with Cole in this case. But the real neat feature here is what we call a smart link. And if you look up at the top, those yellow highlighted records, CloudSuite recognizes the fact that this is a customer PO in our system, and this is an item in our system. And when I click on that customer PO, it's going to drill out to that customer PO and show me the details. That's what we call smart linking. Now, if I were to go back to that same PO, that same email, and I and I focus on the item, and you can direct these to wherever you want, and click that, you're going to see that it's going to open up my CloudSuite Item Master and display that that particular product there. So CloudSuite recognizes in that case the item and the customer PO and directs us right back to that related information. It's a pretty nice feature in addition to all the other capabilities you see down here with the interactions and the order history. All right, we'll talk a little bit about analytics and reporting now. So many of you may have used data views in CloudSuite or Sightline in your past, but we're going to talk data views first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the burst analytical capabilities and the more business intelligence capabilities with burst. But data views are going to give you the ability to go in and do kind of interactive type user reporting. All right, so I'm in a customer record, I'm in a number of customer records. So I've done my filtering, I've brought up my customer records that I want to work with, and I want to dump this out to a data view. And what I do is I basically just hit my send to data view button in the upper right hand portion of the toolbar. And you'll see, first I start with kind of a raw series of data. Looks like an Excel spreadsheet. In fact, if I wanted to send this to Excel at this point, I could. But I might want to work with this first. So what I can do here is I can start filtering this and kind of laying this out the way I want this. So let's say we wanted to do a sales report that kind of summarizes the year-to-date sales by territory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click this Show Options button. It's going to open up my options at the top of the screen or columns. And we'll say that I only want, let's say, Northeast and Southeast territories. Okay, so we'll go Northeast and Southeast. Click OK. I hit that filtering to do that. And let's say I only want those records where sales year to date are not 0. So I'm going to take the 0 out, click OK. And now you can kind of see I've got a listing of those records that were not 0. Now maybe I want to summarize my sales year to date. So I'm going to click on the Summarize button, click OK. We'll see the summary appear down here at the bottom. I could do the same for other columns. I may want to move a column. I'll just drag and drop that column maybe over here. All right, so once I've got it the way I want it, now I want to group it by territory. I'm going to take my territory, I'm going to group it by territory. So now I see my summaries. There's my total for the Northeast. There's my total for the Southeast. I can open these individually, okay, and see the detail. Or I could go up here and I could say expand all and look at them in total. And again, if I export this out to Excel, it's going to retain all these breaks and information we've added. Now at this point, if I wanted to save that, save it so that I don't have to recreate that next time I come here. But you've also got that drill down capability. So if I wanted to go to, Price Brothers as an example, right click, I want to see the open orders for Price Brothers. I can drill back from that, get my detail. Maybe it was this order I was looking for, and I can see, there's the quantity ordered, quantity shipped, etc. So data views, as they've been around for a little bit now, are going to give you kind of that user interactive type reporting, more transactional type reporting that many users are looking for. With the advent of Burst, we have more analytical, three-dimensional or multi-dimensional, I should say, reporting capabilities and more of the drill back style reporting. So I'm going to give you an example of what you can do with Burst. So here's a Burst dashboard. And by the way, there's pre-built content in CloudSuite for Burst. These happen to be dashboards that I use the Burst tools to create some samples with. So depending on your needs, you can license the Burst tools to come up with more robust dashboards if you need to. But let's go ahead and take a look at the kind of the anatomy of a Burst dashboard. Now, what we're looking at here are KPIs at the top of the screen, these yellow boxes. And in Burst, they call these dashlets. And as I kind of hover over the graphs, what you're seeing here are the little charts. You're seeing kind of trending information. This is year quarter information. So here we're looking at a sales profitability report where I'm seeing things like cost of sales, my total profit, what's my average margin percentage. And this is, right now I'm looking at this for all customers across the board. Now, if I were to be more specific and say, okay, I want to look for a specific product category, you know, maybe I want this Mac 700 product category. Now you're going to see everything changes based on the filtering that I've clicked on. So I've said I wanted the Mac 700 line. Here's my profit margin is 34%. Well, if I want to see some of the details on that, you know, maybe I go down and I look at the detail table at the bottom, and this is showing me the individual orders. Here's my profit percentages for each of those orders. Here's a conditional formatted display. So depending on the value, it's going to appear either red, green, or yellow in this case. But, you know, kind of a nice way that we can kind of easily see profitability in this case. Now, if I go down and let's look at a real world example. So I see that the Mac 700 line in this case is running a little slim on profit margin based on, you know, some of the other lines that I'm selling. So I want to see the details of that. So I'm going to click on that. And now it's showing me the individual items I sold, okay? In this case, it looks like it was this item was primarily the culprit, so I'm gonna click on that. And now I'm breaking it down into margin by customer, okay? I can see it looks like this is the reason we drove our margins down was this order for Burr Oak Tool. So what I may wanna do in this case is go down, look at my details, and there's the order. And I want to see in CSI why did I sell that for such a slim margin? So I'm going to click on the order number, and what you'll hear is, okay, I've got my order number, you know, 2849 to Burr Oak, and in my notes over here, you can see the sales manager approved it due to a customer retention issue. Okay, we wanted to retain that customer. A competitor offered a lower price. We see a note down here. It was low margin. Approved retention. So you can see how, you know, I can easily get the information I need from CloudSuite by drilling back through this report, and again, you're gonna build those drill backs and the various breakdowns the way that you want it. So, you know, if I'm a sales manager, I want to see, you know, what's happened in the East. I'll click on the East. Now I see the states in the East. And when I want to see what's happened in New York, now I want to see the reps, okay, that sold in New York. And again, everything gets filtered by the choices that I make. And you can see down here, here's just East and New York because I've already filtered that based on the clicking of this graph. So first is going to give you that multi-dimensional reporting capability that, you know, not to say data views aren't great and you can do a lot with them, but this is just kind of taking it to another level from a reporting and analysis standpoint. All right. By the way, there's my new customer notification starting to come in on Outlook. So you can see how, in addition to showing you those that workflow that we looked at earlier in the CloudSuite mailbox, you'll also see it pop in your Outlook mailbox if you wanted to. Now, we'll talk a little bit about mobility. For example, the burst dashboards I just showed you can be also viewed in kind of a mobile mode. So I'm gonna jump over to, this was, again, in interest of time, this is a video of me on my phone doing kind of some of the same stuff that we just did in the dashboard that we just looked at. So you'll notice what it does is it actually repositions the dashlets, in this case, vertically down my cell phone so that I can actually work with them. Because otherwise, if it just tried to scrunch everything into a little display, you wouldn't be able to work with it. And you can see I kind of move around the grid. I move it up and down with my finger. And as I work up, I'm going to drill into some of the same sales details we just looked at. So I'm going to click on the East in this case, okay, and drill down into the East just tapping on that, and now I tap on New York. We drill down, and you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner how it shows me my filtering. So I can always see how that's filtered. All right, so just a little example of how, from the standpoint of, at least from Burst, we can see the same information on a mobile device. It could have been on a tablet as well. Now, in terms of CSI, a lot of what we've showed you so far is built using what we call responsive design, and it's using what we call flex forms. So as an example, if I were looking at this information here on a tablet, all right, I'm just going to shrink this down to kind of tablet size. Watch what happens. So let me expand that back out. You can see it's 4 wide right now. If I shrink it down to a tablet, it recognizes the size of the display I'm on, and it shrinks it down into, you can see 3 by 3, and it's repositioned some of this other information so that I can easily use that on that tablet. Now, what I can also do, let's go into a form. Let's just go into a vendor's form in this case. So I'm going to look at, some vendor information. So here's what it would look like, obviously, on a desktop or on a laptop. But again, I shrink it down to tablet size. So now you're seeing, here's my tablet. If I shrink it down to more phone size, what you're going to see are those columns now stack each other so that I can still use that on a smaller device without compromising the layout of the screen. In other words, it's not making it so small I can't work with that. And that's what responsive design is all about, is giving you, letting the system recognize the device you're on and actually presenting it in a way that is usable on that device. All right. So those are some of the key things that we want to hit. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of functional capabilities that have been enhanced in CSI 10, but with the Infor OS and CSI 10, you have a pretty powerful tool that, most of what you need to do can be done electronically, and a lot of that paper-based or manual modes kind of go away because you've got everything within the confines of the home pages, the document management we saw, the analytics that we saw, and then mobility that we just looked at. So it's a pretty comprehensive package, allowing you to be much more productive. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Emily, and I appreciate your time today.
All right, excellent. With that, we'll say goodbye for the day. Stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy, and we'll see you at our next session. Thank you.